youth, arts, culture, Spectrum. Right now on TRAXXfm.
11:15 a.m. on the clock right now. Hey, good morning. It's Els Dines with you. This is Trax Momentum. And like I mentioned earlier on, every Tuesday, 11:15 a.m., we have Spectrum on Trax. And we're also on Facebook Live right now at TRAXXfm Official. So you can head on over and, say hi to our guest today, obviously. Andrea Sim. She is the resident conductor and music director of KLPAC String Orchestra. We're talking about conducting magic through music. And so, if you have any questions you would like to ask her, or if you just want to say hi, you can say it. But good morning, Andrea. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, yes. And it's Andrea, right?
Andrea, yes.
Okay, Andrea. So, very, very cool. And I would actually like to know, right? Because whenever you think about conductor, music conductor, you think about someone holding the wand, right? Like something like that. Yeah.
Yes,
or like
the baton.
Yes. What's it called?
Actually, we call it the baton.
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 Baton. All right. Yes. Okay, cool. So why do orchestras need conductors?
That's a great question. So actually, when we first had ensembles, this is like in the 1600s.
Oh.
So when it first started, the ensembles were much smaller than the orchestras today. And actually, they would be led by one of the players in the orchestra. But as the orchestras became bigger, they needed someone to sort of coordinate everyone. And conductors started to use a staff. So they would actually beat the staff on the floor to keep time.
Really?
Yeah, that's right. But the problem is that one famous composer, Lully, he was beating the staff during the concert and he stabbed himself in the foot.
Okay.
And it became gangrenous and he actually died from it.
From the gangrene?
From the gangrene,
wow.
Yes. So then they realized that's not a great idea. So they developed the wand, as you say, the baton.
Yeah.
And it acts as a focus point for the orchestra to keep track of where the beat is and so that they can play together.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you actually need a proper training to know where to point?
Definitely, yes. So we have a whole conducting technique. Actually, people study conducting.
Oh.
You have to study conducting as well.
Wow.
Yes. So it makes a big difference. I think not only does it make a difference. So first of all, if I give a hard attack, the musicians will play with a harder sound.
Oh.
If I give a soft attack, they'll play with a softer sound.
Oh my goodness, that is so cool.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not even into the interview yet, and I'm already learning what's a baton. How do you actually spell baton?
Baton.
All right. Okay, there we go. So the one was actually the baton was actually created to keep track of time, right?
Exactly, to keep track of time.
So until today still?
Yes, until today we still use the baton. Yes, that's right.
All right.
Yeah.
So how long do you actually have to train for using the wand? I'm still going to say wand.
No worries, the one. It depends. It helps to, definitely you have to have a good foundation in music. So you have to have very strong music theory, music history, and what we call oral skills. So you have to have a good ear because you need to be able to hear what's going on,
the
how
beat
to solve
and everything.
The beat and the pitch, the notes, yes, whether it's in at the right frequency.
Right.
So you have to have that basic grounding first. And then to study conducting, I mean, it's a lifelong journey.
Oh, yeah, wow, that's pretty cool. And you mentioned earlier on that the whole orchestra thing started back in 1600s.
That's right.
Or was it earlier?
Well, it started... We had small ensembles first in, I think, the 1500s.
Oh, wow.
Then in the 1600s, we had, this is in Europe, in the courts. So they would want to have entertainment, right? So instead of a band, they would have their string musicians playing string instruments. And then it evolved to include wind instruments and then percussion, brass. Yeah. To now, today, the full orchestra is around 60 to 80 people.
Right, on the stage, right? 60
on the stage.
Wow.
That's
so
right, yes.
What are some of the instruments being played? If you say orchestra, because normally when people say, oh, do you want to go to the orchestra? What I think is the
the cello.
The cello.
Yes.
And
the
violin and stuff like that.
That's
so
right.
Is piano included as well?
Piano sometimes. So it depends on the piece. Piano is not exactly a standard orchestral instrument, meaning that they won't play for every single piece.
Right.
But for example, for our concert, I'm the conductor of the KLPAC String Orchestra.
Yeah.
So we are only strings.
Right.
No, wind, blow instruments. Just the string instruments.
Right,
and
right.
some pieces, so we have 12 pieces in our program. About 5 or 6 of them have piano.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
All right. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So, how does, a conductor like you, because obviously you've been learning this since like probably very, very young, right? So how does a conductor like you and to add their individuality to the music that they are conducting?
Actually, as a conductor, I've only been learning I only first learned it's like 3 years ago. But I've been learning the violin since I was 11.
Right. So you play violin.
I'm a violinist. Yes.
Right.
I play the violin.
Any other?
I play the piano, but I wouldn't perform it.
So it's like you self-taught yourself piano.
I did learn formally.
Oh, okay.
But my major instrument is the violin. Yeah.
Okay. So what we just listened to just now, Lindsay Sterling.
Yes.
That's
the violin. Exactly. Yeah. But she plays like contemporary music, so I'm a classically trained musician.
All right. That's pretty cool. Very, very cool. So how does one become a conductor? Like you mentioned, it's a lifelong journey. It's a lifelong process and stuff like that. So how does one actually become a conductor? Through trainings, definitely.
Through training, yes. I think to become a conductor, it also depends on the personality. Like you need to be able to stand in front of a large group of people and talk and give comments, and you have to have very good critical thinking skills because on the spot you have to realize what is going wrong, how to fix it. And this is the part that people don't really see of conducting. Right. They think that it's just standing there waving your hands.
Yeah.
And what is the point of the conductor? Actually, a large part of the job is during the rehearsal. So these are the skills that you really need to have.
All right. Can you give an example? Because I'm quite interested, because in layman term, right, like for me, it's like, oh, you're a music conductor means you control the music. And that's my thinking. So what you mentioned just now, the critical thinking and like stuff to go wrong during rehearsal or during on-stage performance. So what are the kind of things that would actually go wrong?
The most common thing is that it's not together. So the musicians are not playing together. So you have to figure out what they need from you to play together. Sometimes they need a clearer beat, maybe. Or they need you to look at them and say, look at me, follow me. Another thing during rehearsal is that maybe it's not the interpretation that you want. So you have to... Because music, the wonderful thing about classical music is that we never really perform original pieces.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, unless it's contemporary music. But classical music, the tradition is that we always play music that's already been composed. Yeah, okay. And for many, like hundreds of years, right? So it's amazing because every musician can have their own interpretation for the same piece. So, and every night could be different. Right. So we have, for example, 3 shows this week. Okay. I'm sure that every night we'll play each piece a little bit differently. Yeah. So because you have the excitement, the adrenaline. But during the rehearsal as a conductor, so for a pianist, for example, their instrument is the piano. Right. So they express their interpretations through the piano. Yes. For me, I express it through the orchestra. So that is my instrument. Right. So it's kind of like to put it in simple terms, like when someone reads the same book, right? People will never read the book like a certain way that you would read the book, because everyone reads book differently, right? Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of like it, right? Exactly. And that's also a good way of explaining how the audience would feel, because every audience member would interpret it differently as well. My own interpretation will be different for you, for anyone else. All right, that's pretty cool. So what are kind of like the steps and qualifications that a conductor would need? Well, like I mentioned before, like just to have a very strong foundation in music theory, like the fundamentals of music, how music works. I think it also helps, although it's not a necessity, but it helps a lot to have a good grounding in an instrument. Right. For me, especially as a violinist, I think I have an advantage since I'm conducting a string orchestra. So there's the very technical parts, like, exactly how to play, how to use the bow, how to do this technique. I think that helps, but it's not a necessity. Right. So does one need to like study producing music, or like because being a musician, I think there's actually a course nowadays. Yes. Yeah, good question. So there are actually many different courses. I think with music, there's actually many more layers to it. So like you mentioned, producing, that is one degree, for example, one course. So I studied classical music, majoring in violin performance. Wow. Yeah, there's actually something like that? Yes, there is. There's amazing. You can major in classical music, in contemporary music, in producing, music production, audio tech. But unfortunately, in Malaysia, we don't have a course for conducting. So in Malaysia, if you want to study in Malaysia, usually it's through apprenticeship.
Right. So that's actually like, not to say Malaysia, but in other countries, there's actually a course that says Bachelor in Conducting.
Yes, Master's in Conducting.
Oh my God, are you
PhD
serious?
in Conducting. Yes, that's right. That's right.
Oh wow, okay, this is something new that I'm going to share with my friends. But alright, so moving on to this one, did you ever dream of being a conductor when you were younger?
Not at all, actually.
Because I know off air you mentioned, or like on air, you mentioned that you started violin at 11.
Yes, I started the violin at 11. So I always thought that I would be a violinist, like just a violinist.
Okay.
And, I mean, I'm still a violinist. It's so right now I feel like I kind of have two jobs, you could say.
So a violinist and a conductor.
And a conductor.
So that's separate, right?
They're separate, yes. So how it started was actually, I don't know, I never really thought that I would be a conductor. But then it just so happens when I was about to do my internship, so as part of my degree, I had to do an internship. And I was playing a concert with the conductor of the KLPAC Orchestra, Mr. Lee Kok Leong.
Right.
And I asked him if I could do my internship under him. I thought being just learning the skill is something useful as a violinist in an orchestra.
Okay.
Yes, so that was my thinking. So luckily he agreed, and then later, a few years later, he asked me if I wanted to take over the orchestra.
Oh, wow. Amazing. There we go. So, okay, really, really cool. And coming back, we're going to take a short break right now. But coming back, I do want to know how a day in the life looks like for you, Andrea. So, yeah, there we go. We're also on Facebook Live right now at TRAXXfm Official. You can head on over to say hi and leave your comments and your questions there. We'll be back in a bit.
The big kicker started. Agita looks dangerous to me in third.
Youth. Arts. Culture.
Spectrum. Youth, Arts, Culture. Every Tuesdays, 11:50 a.m., bringing you current issues, tips, insights, and more. Only on TRAXXfm.
Be inspired, informed, and up to date. Tune in to Trax Momentum interview feature of the day at 11:15 a.m. Join us as we speak to our panel of guests on various topics. Health on Trax on Monday. Tuesday, Spectrum. Wednesday, What Matters? Face to face with our guests on Thursdays. And on Friday, tune in to W Talk. Trax Momentum, Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Only on TRAXXfm.
Fancy a fresh cup of tea and scones? Then head on to Cameron Highlands. TRAXXfm 101.1.
11:30 a.m. on the clock right now, and if you're just tuning in, we are talking to Andrea Sim, the resident conductor and music director of KLPAC String Orchestra. We're talking about conducting magic through music, and we are also on Facebook Live right now at TRAXXfm Official. We've got Patricia saying hi to you. We've also got Maggie saying reminiscing with the KLPAC String Orchestra. Wow, there we go. So everyone sending their love. Thank you so much. But we're coming back to the interview right now. Andrea, as a musician, a conductor, how does a day in the life look like for you? Like what do you do on a daily basis?
So as a violinist and conductor, first of all, you have to practice.
Right.
So I'll start my day. Well, it depends because I also have a lot of other engagements. So I have other concerts. So I would have to go for other rehearsals.
Right.
And then attend, of course, our own rehearsals, the KLPAC String Orchestra. So first I would practice. Then I would have to do score study.
Right.
Meaning I will look at the scores for our upcoming concert, and I'll identify where the important parts are, where the important melodies are. And then, so basically it's a lot of study, practice, going to rehearsals.
Right.
And,
so the practice alone takes about 3 hours? I imagine you guys are not practicing just for 1 hour or 2 hours.
No, yes.
Longer, right?
It's longer, yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
So on a daily basis, how long would you say you practice for?
It depends. Ideally, it's 3 hours.
Oh,
But
wow. I got it right.
Yes.
Oh my God.
That's the idea. But unfortunately, I mean, when you're working, that's not really
feasible.
As feasible, yes. So it can be, sometimes, you only have 10 minutes and you have to make the most. So it's
Really?
so it's really
Wow.
all about efficient practice.
Okay, so there we go. So what about you though? Like, what time do you start your day, and like the practice, everything, when does it go on? Like in the morning time or afternoon time?
For me personally, I'm a night person. So sometimes I start at 12 a.m. and 1 a.m. to be honest, yeah. I'm a night owl. So
Okay.
I work best during those hours. Yeah.
All right, cool. Very, very cool. So, okay, how does a conductor get ready for a show? Like, what do you have to tell yourself? Because I know in every job, right, you have to tell yourself, okay, I'm ready for this, especially as performers and also musicians, conductors and stuff like. So how do you get ready for a show?
You're talking about like the mental aspect, right?
Anything, like mentally,
Right.
or like anything. What would you personally do?
Right. So first of all, I have to make sure I'm really prepared. I know the score well. I know exactly what I want to do on stage. But I think a lot of it is the mental part. It's sort of like being an athlete, I think. In those moments before you step on the stage, it's just like before they blow the whistle or whatever. Before the match begins. So I like to tell myself that I have to, whatever happens, just move forward, because I'm a perfectionist.
Oh,
so,
yes.
So most musicians are, I think, because we're always trying to do it as well as we can, right? So I'm trying to tell myself to let go. So whatever happens, just enjoy the music, and that I can't please everyone.
Yeah.
So music is so subjective.
Yes.
It's not like a math exam where you can score 100 points.
Yes.
Even if you do the best that you can, some people won't like it. It's just the way it is. So I'm telling myself to just do what I like and find people who like it, and just be happy with that.
So that's generally how you get ready for a show.
That's how I get ready for shows in general now. But the first step is, of course, the preparation.
The preparation. So when you mentioned score, right, just now, so what does that actually mean?
Right, so we have music sheets.
Okay.
So it's like our own musical language written down, and looking at, so as a violinist, I look at one line. I just play one line.
Okay.
But the conductor has everybody's lines.
Oh, wow.
So it can be 5 lines. It can be, for a full orchestra, it can be like 15 lines. So you have to keep track of a lot. It's a lot about multitasking as a conductor.
All right.
You have to keep track of so many things.
So score is basically a language.
Yes, it's a language. Yes,
All
that's right. It's the written music on the paper.
All right, very cool. So moving on to this one, it was quite interesting to actually learn about this. I googled it a little bit earlier on. The Vienna Philharmonic, right, only started accepting female candidates for any position as recently as 2002. That was quite a long time ago. So still, the world has shifted gears. The positions are rapidly being filled by women. I think a lot of people can see that, actually. Like, a lot of the orchestra positions have been filled by women, not because of the gender, but because they are the best instrumentalists and musicians available. So what is your opinion on this shift?
I think it's long overdue, actually. It's quite astonishing. If you watch old videos of orchestras, even in the 1960s, it's all men. It's just men. And which is weird, because half of the world's population is women, right? So where is our voice in classical music? If you notice, actually, even on our program, all of the composers are men. Because it's just because it's the tradition, unfortunately, that women were not accepted as composers. They were not allowed to compose.
Oh, really?
Or to publish their compositions. Yes.
Oh,
right.
wow.
So do you know the Wedding March?
It
was composed by Felix Mendelssohn. He had a sister, Fanny Mendelssohn, and it was said that she was as talented or even more talented as him, but her family would not allow her to publish her compositions.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Actually, it's quite interesting that you mentioned, because most of the composers or producers that I heard of, like Hans Zimmer, male.
Yes.
John Williams, male.
Yes, exactly.
So I do not understand that.
Yes, it's still, luckily, nowadays, we have more and more female composers coming up, more and more female conductors, but it's still very tough. For example, in America,
right,
of the 20 major orchestras, one of them is led by a woman. only
wow.
one. So yeah, I think it's still hard because being a conductor is similar to being a CEO. You're leading a large group of people. It might be hard for some people to accept that a woman is leading them.
Right.
I think still.
Okay.
But slowly it's changing. So
Right.
So actually what I would like to do as the current conductor of the KLPAC String Orchestra is to act as like a role model for the younger generation.
Yeah.
And I hope that anyone listening to this interview or watching this interview would think, if she can do it, maybe I can too.
Yeah,
you know?
that is quite. It's actually quite. I don't want to say weird, but it's really weird that us women, right, females, we normally. Probably 7 years old, our parents would take us to learn piano. I don't know. I was from that background. Okay,
yes, yes.
I was from that background where my mom would say, "Okay, go learn piano." And like I'm looking at my friends, they're all learning piano, some kind of instruments, okay, like yourself, violin at 11. So we were all from that background. So I would think that composers and producers are mostly women. See. Actually, it's weird, right?
No, yes, it's weird because now we are lucky because women are allowed to be musicians.
Oh,
but for them to be a conductor, which is who's right at the forefront, like leading the orchestra, that's still not quite accepted as we would like to see.
Right, there we go. So how do you plan on contributing to breaking barriers and reaching new heights in this field? So because you mentioned that anyone who's listening, tuning in right now, and for those women, especially young girls who want to be a conductor, so what can you say to them?
I want to say, don't be afraid of breaking social conventions. If you really love it, just go for it. I think, I mean, not only young women, of course, but also young Malaysians, because we have so few conductors in Malaysia, actually. And I myself never thought I would be a conductor just because I wasn't really exposed to it. It just wasn't an option in my mind.
Right. That was after your internship, right?
I mean, after my internship, then it became a possibility.
Okay. There we go. So what was the first thought in your mind when your sifu asked you to be the conductor?
My first thought was, can I really do it? Are you sure? Are you asking the right person? But it's interesting because for me personally, I really like doing a variety of things, and I would be bored just doing one thing.
Right.
I think so. I love music history and theory and oral and I love actually standing in front of a group of people and talking. I even thought about becoming an MC at one point.
Oh wow! Do it! Wow!
Who knows? Maybe. But so it just so happens that, and I love, one of my passions is actually coaching a large group of people and nurturing, a training orchestra.
Right.
And it just so happens that conducting combines everything. So it's sort of like the dream I never knew I had.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. That's really, really cool. So we'll be taking a short break and we'll talk more about your upcoming concert in a bit. So stay tuned. We're also on Facebook Live right now at TRAXXfm Official. We're going to read out some of your comments. So if you have any questions for Miss Andrea, please leave them there. We'll be taking a short break. Be back after this.
Direct to your home, in the car, or at work with 50,000 watts of power and no satellite dish required.
You got it locked on the best radio station.
TRAXXfm.
11:43 a.m. on the clock right now, and we're talking to Andrea Sim. We're also on Facebook Live at TRAXXfm Official, and you've got Farida Andrea. She's saying, one of my rare moments listening. Kudos to Andrea.
Thank you so much.
There we go. So you mentioned that there is a concert coming up, right? So lovely Andrea has a lovely poster. You can catch it right now. She's pointing it to the camera. So yeah, please do check out our Facebook Live. So tell us more about the your debut. This is your debut, right?
Yes.
Amazing. So tell us about your debut coming in July and how's the preparation?
Yeah, so first of all, I'd like to talk about the concept of this concert. Actually, 12 years ago, I auditioned for the KLPAC String Orchestra as a violinist.
Okay,
yes.
okay.
So I played a lot of the repertoire that we're performing in this orchestra and in other of my own training orchestras when I was young. So this concert is sort of like my tribute to those conductors, and these pieces are all very important pieces for me. As in the orchestral repertoire, meaning in the like our songbook.
Okay.
So so these are all very important pieces for young musicians to play. I think just to be exposed to them. And so I'm fascinated by history, if you couldn't tell already, and I love to see the evolution of how things develop. So where things come from. So you mentioned 1600s. One of the pieces will be coming from there.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and then another one will be coming from the 1700s, and then a lot from the 1800s, and finally to what I believe is an evolution of classical music today, which is film music. So we'll have music by John Williams, Star Wars, Jurassic Park, and so on.
Right.
And that's how I chose the pieces for this concert.
I mean, I'm going to be super, super not smart when I ask you this, right? Do you have Beethoven in there?
Yes, we have Beethoven.
Wow.
We have Beethoven.
Okay, I got it. Okay.
Yes.
Right. I also know this one, Chopin.
Chopin. Chopin is more of a composer for piano. So we don't have any pieces by him, unfortunately.
Okay. All right. There we go. So, okay. I just wanted to put it out there that I know one musician. Okay. And how long have you been preparing for this, your debut?
Yes, so actually we started in February this year.
Oh, that's not too long.
Too long, actually. Yes, so it's a real learning process for me as well as the musicians, and it's been great just to get to know the musicians.
Right.
Every ensemble, every group is different, so it's really nice to find out the dynamic of the group and seeing the progress as the weeks go on. And that's what I hope to do with this orchestra, is to give young musicians of all ages. We have musicians as young as 12 up to working adults.
Right.
So I like to give them all a platform to train their orchestra ensemble playing skills and to give them a place to play nice music.
Right.
Yeah. For example, actually in November, we'll be doing a Studio Ghibli themed concert.
Wow.
Yes, and with some anime music as well. So
nice.
That will be fun.
Right. So what actually made you kind of think about setting your debut? Did you just wake up one day, okay, I want to do this thing, I'm going to put all my pieces together, going to set up this thing? What made you want to do this?
Well, it started with my mentor, Mr. Lee Kok Leong, when he asked me to take over, and the KLPAC Orchestra has 2 concerts every year. So it just so happens this is the first one.
Oh.
And it's also my debut.
Yeah.
So it all just happened at the right time, I think. Yeah.
Amazing. So you mentioned that you've been you are a conductor for like 3 years now, right?
More or less, but actually I've done it seriously for maybe about a year.
Oh,
or so.
Okay, that's still quite long.
Still, yeah.
So what are some of your fondest memories of being a conductor? Well, actually, I suppose I did get the chance to conduct my university orchestra for a showcase, and that was nice. It was my first time conducting like a big orchestra. As a conductor, I think this will probably be a very memorable one because it's my first. The first time is always the most memorable. The first is always the best.
Yes.
All right, so now we're going to read some comments of Facebook Live. Thank you also so much for leaving comments. So this one comes in from Beth. She says, how does one progress in the music industry? For example, in your case, becoming a conductor, was it more focused on the academic side or the practical or the experience? Also, can't wait for the weekend to be here for the orchestra. Thanks for all the hard work.
Thank you so much, Beth. Thank you for your support. Actually, it's a bit of everything that you mentioned. There's the theory, there's the practical, there's the experience. I think one part about music, so as musicians, actually, some people think it's like an easy way out. Like, you just do music if you can't study so well, for example. But actually, there's a lot to study. And you have to really know your stuff. So for conductors, we have to have this theoretical side, like I mentioned, the score study. So studying, knowing the music, then we have to know exactly how we want to beat. So that's the practical side, the gestures that we want to make.
Right.
And also when it comes to experience, of course, most of the things that I think, as we gain more experience, we'll know how to handle problems better. Another part about becoming a musician, I think, is your people skills, like just music is very relationship based. We're always making music with others. So
teamwork, right?
Teamwork, yes, teamwork, and also just being humble, I think, is a very important factor.
Right, there we go. She says, another additional question: do you see Malaysia going forward with the classical scene? I've always found it a bit lacking, limited to some group of people.
I think to an extent, yes, definitely, but it's developing. Even from the past 10 years or the past 5 years, it's developed so much, and now you see more and more young local musicians coming up. In terms of being accessible, that's a big problem that we face actually as classical musicians, because I think it starts from education.
Right.
So if you're exposed to it from a young age, then you will appreciate it more as an adult, as an audience member.
I actually listen to classical music whenever I'm baking or whenever I will have that as the background, because I don't get to listen to classical music here, so it's always at home or whenever. This question coming in from Alyssa. Hi Andrea, I'm curious to know how your passion of music came about, and also if you've gone through any slumps and how to get through them. Wow.
That's a good question. How my passion came about? Well, honestly, I've thought about changing career a few times, because being a musician is so hard. You have so many insecurities, you have self-doubts and obstacles.
Like, is this something real? Is this something I see myself doing in 20 years? That kind of thing, right?
That kind of thing. Okay. Oh, it's more like, am I good enough? Am I good enough for it? And but each time when I thought about doing something else, I could never imagine myself being happy doing anything but music. And that's when I knew, okay, I have to continue with this. So yes, I've definitely come across many slumps. Yeah.
So how did you just positive self-talk?
Positive self-talk, and I've been trying really to tell myself that I can't please everyone. Actually, even with this concert, as a young female conductor, I've had my own share of slumps as well. So I've been telling myself to just trust myself.
That's very good. Very good. Okay, so this question, the last one. Jared says, looking forward to the concert. When will the concert be? All right, Andrea, would you mind showing the Facebook poster one more time?
Definitely. So the concert will be this weekend, the Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Friday and Saturday at 8:30, Sunday at 3 p.m. Yes, at KLPAC, Pentas 2. So it'll be presented by KLPAC and the KLPAC String Orchestra.
Yeah, and you know who's going to be in the center? Who's going to be in the center?
The orchestra, of course.
Yeah,
of course.
Oh, the orchestra.
The orchestra. Right.
So there we go, Jared. It's going to be on the 1st, 2nd and 3rd of July. It will be Andrea's debut. So definitely show some support. And I think that's all the questions I'm going to take on Facebook Live right now. Thank you so much for the questions. And Andrea, you can go and answer them later on.
Yes.
So before we quickly end this, what would you like to tell youngsters who would like to follow in your footsteps?
I would like to tell them to be passionate, actually. Yeah, because if you're not passionate, like I mentioned, it's easy to give up,
focus.
to lose focus. Yes, exactly. And work hard, because talent is just a prerequisite. But if you don't work hard, it's hard to go forward. I think. And be kind to everyone.
Be humble
because music tends to be very competition centric and exams focused,
right?
Which is good to have a goal, but I think if we focus on the holistic side and think of it as just making the whole music scene in Malaysia better for everyone, then it'll be a better place for all of us.
Yeah, definitely. There we go. Been talking to Andrea Sim, the resident conductor and music director of KLPAC String Orchestra. Show your support. Head on down to KLPAC to watch her debut. 1st, 2nd and 3rd of July, this Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Thank you so much for sharing your insights today, Andrea.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye.
We will be back next week for more topics, issues, tips, and insights. Spectrum, youth, arts, culture. Only on TRAXXfm.